Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. My name is John Heberling. I'm the Senior Partnerships Manager at Kickfurther. Today's conversation is all about helping CPG brands expand into retail. We're going to keep this conversation really casual and conversational. There'll be no slides, just practical insights that you can apply afterwards. We're going to cover everything from how to prepare and stand out as a retail-ready brand, and then what it takes to land a buyer meeting, but also once you get that buyer meeting, how do you get that yes and get that purchase order? And then lastly, we're going to go over once you get that purchase order, how to fund it confidently and then grow into retail from there. Joining me today are the three fantastic guests who bring decades of experience across the CPG and retail space. First, we have Tia Ellis, CEO at Wildflower Insight. Tia, can you share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, guys. I am so excited for today's webinar. We have some really great discussions that we're going to have. A little bit about me, my background. I have helped founders sell over 150 million units of different products across all 50 states, from health and wellness to food and beverage. I have been a broker. My company used to be a brokerage. I'm now being hired by brokers to teach even existing brokers on how to represent their customers and clients well. And what I get the privilege of doing all day, every day, is teaching founders on how to have conversations with buyers and win the buyer meetings to get them that purchase order. And so that's what we're talking about in my section today. And I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, Tia. Next, we have Wayne Bennett, Senior Vice President of Retail at ECRM and RangeMe. Wayne, can you share a little bit about yourself?
Hello, everyone. Excited to be here as well. Well, first of all, I have 3 decades of retail and CPG experience helping retailers and brands succeed in the marketplace. Currently, I lead the retail engagement efforts for ECRM and RangeMe, which includes a team that helps retailers become more efficient in their procurement, category management, sourcing initiatives. And I'm excited to be here and share some of my insights to help you all win in the marketplace.
Awesome. Thanks, Wayne.
Yeah.
And then last, we have John Donovan, board member and advisor at Kickfurther.
Thanks, John. Thank you, everyone. Very excited to be here. I'm the boring guy on the panel, more on the money side, I guess. Worked for MasterCard for a long time, serial entrepreneur, co-founding multiple fintechs, and have worked with Kickfurther for a while, and really here to give that perspective of, as you're a CPG brand and growing, are you funded the right way? What are the options to make sure that you can actually satisfy that order? So looking forward to the conversation.
Awesome. Thanks, John. I appreciate you three being here today. So before we dive in, I just wanted to make a quick note. Please submit any questions in the chat at any time throughout. We'll do our best to try to weave them into the discussion. And if for some reason we can't get them during the discussion, we'll save them for the Q&A at the end. And also keep an eye out for in the chat for links that we're going to be dropping throughout of, how to connect with our panelists, as well as other, upcoming, other resources, upcoming events that they're going to be hosting. All right. Well, then after this, let's jump in. Wayne,
Yes,
to
sir.
start off, before brands even think about getting on shelves or even meeting with buyers,
Yes.
what does it mean for them to be retail ready? And why is that critical to think about before even approaching buyers?
That's great. Great question, John. Thank you for that. First of all, I just want everyone on the call to understand there are basically 4 key things that every retailer wants. They want more foot traffic, they want more shoppers, they want bigger market baskets, and they want all that for less cost. So understand that those are the 4 key drivers that every retailer is going to want. Everyone on the call has got a great product, but is your product retail ready? And if I can just break this down to some very simplistic acronym, I think we all are familiar with the 4 Ps: product, price, place, and promotion. And when you break it down to each one of those buckets, there are retail readiness factors involved with each one of those buckets. So product: is your product shelf ready? Do you have the necessary certifications? Do you have the necessary compliant barcodes? Does your shelf life requirements meet the requirements of the retailers? Do you have the packaging that fits the shelves of the retailer and the distribution network that supports it? Do you have price? Is your price set for category dynamics, right? Do you have the money ready for trade spending, for retail media budgets, or for freight, right? Is your price optimized for that? Place or points of distribution. Where are you selling? What is your channel strategy? Are you optimized for the way retailers want you to launch today online? Amazon, Walmart, TikTok Shop. So is your channel strategy right? And then lastly, your promotion. Do you have a story? What's your point of differentiation? Do you have a RangeMe profile? And at the end of the day, the questions you have to ask yourself is, can I ship? Can I scale? Can I support the shelf? And most importantly, because all that stuff is easy, can I win with the consumer?
That's
So
awesome.
that's, I think, some perspectives about being retail ready.
No, I love it. That's all very insightful. And, get back to the principles, right? The 4 Ps,
Right.
everything learned during school. So kind of to dig into it a little deeper in a few things like pricing, for example. How should founders think about pricing, both from their margins, but also from the retailer's profitability requirements?
Right. Really good question. I think pricing strategy is very, very important, right? Because you don't want to come into the market too low or too high, and that could mess you up relative to other retailers that you're working with. So I do think it's important to spend a little time understanding your pricing, understanding the needs of the retailer, and obviously understanding the competitive set that your product is going into. Price, you have to understand the costs of doing business at retail, the supply chain, the freight, the transportation, the trade funds, all the fees that it might take for you to win. And you have to obviously take that all into account relative to your margin. So pricing is very important. And clearly, I am not a pricing expert, but if there are people who can guide you relative to pricing, I think that's certainly a good thing to consider when launching a new product at retail.
Yeah. It's not as simple as just like, hey, here's what I buy it for, especially in the retail space. Here's what I bought it for my supplier. Here's what I'm selling it for to retail. All those other components you mentioned, you really have to understand the unit economics down to the penny, right?
Yes, that's very well stated, John.
Yeah. And then I know you talked about obviously the manufacturing and the fulfillment side of things, right? Because if
Yes.
the demand's going to grow, you get that first purchase order, then you might get another, then another, and the manufacturing and the fulfillment might be set up if you're selling direct consumer, but it's a completely different beast for retail. So what are some practical steps for ensuring that your manufacturing and fulfillment are ready to meet that retail demand?
Yeah. Well, one of the things, John, I would say to you is certainly do your due diligence. If you don't own your own manufacturing and you're using a co-manufacturer, which most people probably do in this asset light environment, is I would say to you, make sure you're picking the right co-man. Do your due diligence, ask other people in the industry. There's a great platform out there called Partner Slate, which can help you assess and find co-men based on your requirements, your specifications, your needs. I would definitely say that is very essential in doing your due diligence. I am aware of brands that have picked the wrong co-men and it's really screwed them up when it came time to deliver, when the purchase order said when they needed to deliver by. So definitely do that. John, what was the second part of your question?
From the manufacturing, but the fulfillment side too of things.
Okay.
Like, okay, you produce it, but also can you deliver it in the way that the retailer needs it, right? Because I used to work at Wegmans when I was younger, and when we received pallets, they had to be packaged specifically. And I know every retailer has their specific ways even to receive their goods.
Right. So obviously, supply chain and the distribution and transportation is a whole science in of itself. I would make sure you pick the right partners there as well, whether you're shipping direct to a store, DSD, or you're shipping directly to a warehouse, or you're using a supply chain platform that is collecting and collaborating together and then distributing out. I think it's LTL. Tia, maybe help me out. Where there's not full truckloads, but they're consolidating truckloads. And so again, it's important to really understand how you want to go to market in the best possible way.
Yeah, no, that's great. T, I don't know if you want to add anything there at all, or
Well, LTL, and I think that this is a little bit of something people don't think about when they're launching brands because it's so exciting and you've got the thing that you're really good at and you've created, this item, but nobody really thinks about the logistical side of it. And so as we were just talking about, LTL basically just means it's less than truckload. And so when you're sending product to retailers, a lot of the time, unless you get a national rollout with a very, very large retailer, you're probably not going to be sending in an FTL, which is a full truckload. And so
Right.
being able to understand the dynamics and the packaging and even down to the case pack sizing and the logistical piece of what it means to send a full pallet or a less than truckload, which would be like, 2 or 3 pallets at a time. It's really kind of important to understand that piece as well because and now we're jumping into a little bit of the things that the buyers are looking for, of course, but that really is something that they want to know that you've done your homework on and you understand so that you can truly be a good partner with them and not just somebody that is, pulling things together last minute. They buyers want to partner with people that are prepared, kind of like maybe adding into the P's that we were just talking about. I would
Right.
probably put prepared on that as well.
Right. It's a good
five
point.
P's, 5 P's now.
Five
Yeah.
Ps. That's right. That's right. Right.
Oh, I love it.
And the other thing too is always be transparent. I can't begin to tell you how many buyers have always told me that one of the key things that they want their suppliers calling on is be transparent.
Yeah, both transparent in a positive and even a negative, right? They'd rather hear the negative news as fast as possible and be upfront rather than, hear about it after the fact.
That is correct.
Okay. No, thanks for that both. And then, so going on to the product side of things, why is it important for founders to know how their product is different than other products on the shelf and like what missing trend it helps fill on retail shelves?
Right. Well, again, Tia may be talking about this later, but the concept of incrementality, right? You have a shelf and you're looking to get distribution, right? So is the category growing so fast that the retailer is expanding the category and now giving more shelf space for more items? Or is it just a situation where the category is staying where it's at 4 feet, 8 feet, whatever the assortment SKU level is, and it's keeping the same? Now you're trying to go in. Well, if something goes in, something comes out, right? And so your job is to bring forward a story, a message that will convince the retailer that the incrementality of your product versus the alternatives are worth it. Right? Everyone's got great products because everyone on this call has got a great product. But the nuance is, how are you going to shape or form your story to convince the retailer to do that activity, which costs them money in and out. Labor costs money, right, to get that product on the shelf.
Yeah. No, totally. That's great. And actually, it kind of leads into the next section. There's a question that I just came through that I want to ask, but it's kind of a perfect to bridge us over. So now the brands, like that's some insight how to become retail ready. Obviously, the next step or the next hurdle, should I say, is getting in front of the buyer and getting their attention. So obviously it's tough, it's noisy. I believe Scott maybe put it in the chat. So my huge roadblock is almost every part of my business is getting a response from emails and calls to buyers. What strategies are good to use to stand out and actually just getting a response, right?
Yep. Great question. Well, one of the things you're going to want to do is you're going to want to talk to Tia, who's going to create a great presentation for you that's going to help you break through the clutter and the noise. So that's definitely one thing you're going to want to do. But yesterday, I put a post on LinkedIn of 25 ways that you can get in front of retail buyers. You may want to check that out. It's not a full list. It's just a quick list. But clearly, I think after being in this industry for 3 decades, and I don't mean to give a shameless plug, but for a very small annual fee of some dollars, the cheapest investment and the most effective investment that you could make to succeed in retail today is to put your product on RangeMe. And I don't really like to give myself shameless plugs, but if you want to be a RangeMe starter at $99, and let's say it's going to be a 3-year journey, that's $300 over 3 years. That's the cheapest amount of money. And I'm not here to pitch RangeMe. I'm here to help you win. But I definitely think getting your product on RangeMe is definitely important. I will also say a shameless plug for ECRM. And again, I'm not here to give shameless plugs for my business, but I'm just saying if you're a small emerging brand, we have delivered 30 years of buyer-seller engagement in a highly constructive, curated way. And it is the best way for you to efficiently get buyer engagement, one-on-one meetings all set. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, which I truly believe is meaningful for you all, how else can you get in front of the buyers? Well, there's a lot of ways, right? A lot of retailers do innovation summits, right? You can apply to innovation summits, and that's a pipeline for them. You can engage with brokers or consultants or people who are connected into the industry. You know, I have a term that I've used throughout my life is hang around the hoop, right? Go where the buyers are. Go where the buyers are and hang around the hoop and try to get a rebound, right? I would use content, snackable content bits to educate the retailer, right? Email them. Don't always try to sell them on your product. Sell them on the opportunity, on the trend, right? I would do that. I would also think about starting small, gaining wins, and using those wins to further along your story. And if you don't have a strategy to win in the biggest retailer of the world, and that's the phone. I thought I was going to say somebody else, but the phone is your biggest retailer. And if you're not optimized, right, to win here mobilely, digitally, you need to think about your strategy more. John, I think there's a lot. I would just leave you with that. I think there's a lot of ways to get in front of buyers. Working with people like Tia, obviously working with people like Kickfurther, working with ECRM and RangeMe. There's a lot of opportunity, more so than ever, to help yourself get in front of buyers. I'm always here to help you get in front of buyers.
Well, even though you, Shane, I was going to plug you anyway, so don't worry. If you didn't say it, I was going to say it about RangeMe ECRM. I mean, we've been partnered for such a long time. The team there is great. We have a lot of clients that have used you guys over the years and grown in retail. So it's fantastic. And then obviously attending the ECRM events too.
Yeah.
I was actually going to ask a question, and I think it was Jeff put it in the chat, so it's kind of perfect timing. For brands that are on RangeMe, like what are some of the most successful brands on there? That what do they do differently? What do they do correct that helps them stand out?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I would say to you, make sure your profiles are complete and optimized, and you have as much information filled out there as possible. Definitely continue to check on immediate opportunities get published. We will have published this year nearly 600 retailer-based opportunities. It really is the only place at scale where you can find more about retailer opportunities. Submit to those opportunities. Make sure your profile is optimized. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know the immediate opportunities go from the biggest retailers of the Walmarts, the Open Calls of the world, and to the smallest retailers. So really, you can go anywhere in between to start there. Some people might be intimidated, like, "Oh, am I ready for Walmart?" But it's not just Walmart as immediate opportunities. All these other retailers that they can start with.
That's right, and those are real opportunities. I mean, that's what our team does. We have those relationships with the retailers, and we're making the platform available for them to help them streamline their workload, their effort, to help them find those new innovations, those products, those capabilities that they need for growth.
Yeah. So those are some of the positive. Is there something, any negatives, that you've seen brand or mistakes that you've seen brands do on RangeMe that maybe, to avoid?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say RangeMe per se. I would stop and think about mistakes that brands may have made, to help them get that meeting, because that's what we're talking about here. Certainly, I know Tia's got a lot to say about the presentation and certainly could add in on that. Again, this is not an easy business. This is a business not for the faint-hearted. You have to have a lot of patience. You have a lot of ideas. And then once you get the buyer meeting, just remember, you also have to get the product off the shelf, right? So there is definitely things. I'm just trying to think, mistakes that brands make. Don't annoy the buyer. Add value. Sell the category. Sell the opportunity. Don't always sell with your product first. Be a
Yeah,
partner. Be a collaborator. Add value.
I love it.
And
Yeah.
I love that, John. If I can just jump in here,
Okay.
I love that you said to add value. Scott, your question on how do you follow up with buyers and get them to, engage. Buyers have one of the most difficult jobs in the world because they are being pulled in so many different directions and everybody wants something from them, whether that's time or attention or a meeting or, a new product review. They are spread so thin that when they are being pitched at all day, every day, and that really is how it goes. Like if you even walk an expo floor, you see a buyer with a name tag, people are, like kind of stalking them because they want an opportunity for them to put their coffee down so they can talk with them. So the way that you stand out, not only in email communication with buyers, but also just in general, is by sharing something positive. So not always being the we call it like pick me brand, because you don't want to be begging and asking for attention because that's what everybody else is doing. But what you can do instead is share something exciting. So like let's say you've reached out to a buyer, maybe you've had communication, maybe you haven't. They likely have seen that email come through, right? But how you separate yourself a little bit is by sharing, hey, I know you're busy. I won't take up any too much of your time. Just wanted to share a fun, exciting update. We just launched in insert retail store, or we just came out with a new line, a new product line. And it's exciting because we're attracting and engaging with these type of customers, which is a different demographic than typically our brand supports. And so you're able to show them not only you and your brand, but also wins. Or like sometimes it's as simple as, oh, we were just nominated for this award and we won. And it's exciting and it's fun. And people, again, buyers are just people. Like they want to support other people and they want to cheer on brands that are doing the right things. And it might not be this week that you get the yes. And it probably isn't even because it's really a no. It's just it might be because they saw the email and they forgot to respond because they're doing 20,000 different things. But you keep them in the loop and have them cheer for you and advocate for you. And when the opportunity does come up, you will be on their top 10 list. And you know, it's much better to be the one that they remember and positive and exciting because people want to work with people that they like.
Yeah, I love that. I've heard the terminology pleasantly persistent. Like I feel like hopefully that's the
Yeah.
right way to kind of approach buyers.
Yeah.
Uh,
And positive, like constantly positive. You never want to be the brand that's always asking for something.
Right. Yeah.
Be somebody that shares something with them.
Yeah. And Tia, to your point, which I think was excellent, that's you have to understand the mentality of why you don't get the call back. Right. So you have to build out a campaign for your product to get the attention of the retailer. Right. They don't call you back because they don't want to do business with you. They don't call you back because they got 30,000 things they're doing.
Right. It's not personal.
It's not personal. Believe me, we call a lot of buyers every day and they don't call me back and I'm still smiling and I'm all happy. But just know that that's why they're not calling you back. T is 100% right.
That's great. I guess, Tia, when you talked about like giving them updates, what about stuff like social proof, right? Like say they're direct to consumer brand, they have very strong reviews. Like, can they leverage that? Or maybe they use influencers and they've seen a lot of traction with sales on that. Like, can they leverage that stuff to like update the buyers to show like, hey, I have a product that people want and buy and love.
Yeah, you not only can you use that to update buyers and just have that communication in email to hopefully get the meeting, but let's say you actually get the meeting and you're trying to present to a buyer and buyer meetings typically are 20 minutes if you're lucky. And so you should be able to go through your entire pitch and presentation in 10 because you want to have 5 minutes for small talk at the beginning and then 5 minutes for question and answer at the end. And so two of the things really to drive home in the buyer meeting is one, like you really have two jobs. One is to get them to like you. So not only as a human and as a person, right? Because buyers are people too, but also the product. Like, why is it great? Why is it different? Why is it unique? Like, why is it different than something that's already sitting on the shelf? Because as Wayne mentioned earlier, there's really only two ways to do this. You either are expanding the set and they're looking to bring in new products, which is exciting. So you really have an opportunity to be one of the new innovations, or they're keeping the set exactly where they are and you're going to steal shelf space from somebody else. So why are they going to put your product on the shelf and take someone off? Like, you literally have to explain why you are better, why your brand is better than what they currently have, and why it's going to bring them customers. And so, John, to your question, there's two really great ways to do that to share wins. One is showing category growth. So, like for example, if you are let's just make one up. Like, you're a vitamin infused milk product, right? You're a canned beverage, it's shelf stable, it's something that hasn't existed before, and you're able to explain how your product, this vitamin milk, is going to attract customers that other milk category doesn't have. So like adults that want to have a caffeine fixed milk, or children that want nostalgia but also have added prebiotics, or different types of ashwagandha, like something cool. How are you different and unique? And then also, like, what is showing in that category growth? So dairy is a category. Can you show anything about how dairy category has grown over the last 5 years? Or maybe how vitamin infused or functional beverages are growing? Like, what are the trends that you can show them? Because buyers, again, want to know that you're going to be pulling not from just one, but maybe two or three different categories, so that you are, again, not like a risk for them. If you can show them that you are a safe category or even brand to invest in, like, you have a way better shot at that. John, the question on, can you show, social media and TikTok and influencer growth? Absolutely. Like, if you are having demand in some part of your business, whether that's online and e-commerce and shopping, where customers, it has this like virality element to it, you absolutely want to show that, because again, like, buyers want to bring cool things into their store. So if you can show them again that you're winning, they also want to be a part of that. FOMO, the fear of missing out, is a very real thing, and buyers are not exclusive to that. Like, they're humans, right? Like, people want to cheer for people that win and support people that are doing cool things, but they also want to be a part of it. So if you can kind of tailor your pitch and present it in a way where it's helping them win, at the end of the day, when you boil everything else out, you want the buyer to feel like they're winning if they choose to work with you. And that's how you separate more than anything.
Yeah. Tia, just to follow up to you, and that was great. I mean, in terms of the social media metrics that should definitely be shared, one of the top three questions that a buyer will ask a supplier is, are you selling online? And where are you selling online? And what are your metrics of growth online? And are you converting? And do you have social media following? And how engaged are they? Like, if you have that information, bring it. Definitely bring it. Because those are your proof points. Because you don't have retail distribution yet in brick and mortar, but you do have digital proof points.
Yeah. No, I love it. And then to mention the FOMO, like, obviously I know we're talking about getting to retail for the first time, but say brands are in retail, like you said, does mentioning that you're, in another retailer, like you said, that's good to show like proof that, hey, I've done this with other retailers, but also like you said, like, is it good to show it from a FOMO? Like, oh, if retailer ABC is doing it, I should be doing it too, because I'm obviously missing out. So should they use that to their advantage?
I always suggest to founders to highlight where they're winning, right? Because a buyer is going to do the research on you, whether you like it or not. Like, they're going to Google you, they're going to go to different retail, like, they're going to try to find where you're selling. For really early stage brands, sometimes it's difficult to hit that first retailer. I always say, like, the hardest one to get is the first one, because that first one really has to believe and bet on you. And so once you have the first one, or maybe even the second one, I suggest to the founders that we work with to include that. So if you're going up for a big pitch, a large retailer, I would suggest putting, retailer one and two, even if it's very local or it's regional, it's a very small retailer, like, put that on there, because it shows them that somebody has already done this and they don't have to be that first, kind of early adapter and take and consume the majority of the risk. We found that when you do share that, it's kind of an easier thing. Well, oh, if they've done it, like, I might do it also.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's perfect. And yeah, obviously you've already kind of started alluding to this, but I'd love to hop in the next section of like, now, like, okay, retail ready, you get the buyer meeting now. Before you go to that meeting, like you want to understand obviously how to talk about your brand, but the buyer's mindset of going into that. Like from your experience, like what's going on through a buyer's mind going into and then during that first meeting?
Yeah. So there are really three main pitches that a product founder should or potentially will need to master throughout the lifetime of their product. And so the very first one is to the customer, right? Like the customer cares about how it looks, what it tastes like, the functionality, is it going to be healthy for me? What do I get about it? The second pitch is potentially to an investor, right? And so an investor is somebody that's going to, put money into your business. And when you boil all of the other things out, they just want to know if they're going to make their money back in 5 to 10 years, whatever the agreement is. And then you have the pitch to the retail buyer. Now, the buyer is, you have to kind of take it back and frame it in their mind because they are a corporate employee, right? They have internal initiatives and KPIs to hit so that they can perform well. They have bosses, they have colleagues, they, sometimes have team members. They are just trying to win and do their job well. And the job that they're doing is making their category perform. How do they do that job? By picking brands that will win and sell. And so when you take everything else out, like all of the emotion, everything, when you are pitching and you're going into that buyer meeting for the first time, you need to explain. Like the one thing that you really got to get across is how you're going to help them win and how you're going to make sure that your product sells in store. Because if you can do that in a clear way and you've got a great pitch and you're nice and kind and all of the regular human things, but you've got that little element to it, it makes it really hard for them to say no. And so the psychology is I want to pick brands that are going to win because I want to go up, for the next time that there's a promotion opportunity. I want to show that I've been performing well and I'm building things and I'm working hard. That's the psychology.
Yeah, yeah. So understanding that psychology obviously is key. To kind of go through that a little more, like what's knowing their psychology, but it's maybe like a common misconception founders have about what buyers value most.
Mhm. Yeah, I think one of the most common misconceptions is assuming that the buyer is your customer. So this is a funny story, but I knew a buyer at a very large retailer that was over wine and spirits. And this particular buyer was sober for 9 years. And so when the brand went to present their wine, it was a lovely wine. They went to present it, and buyers take meetings all hours of the day. So it was a 7 or 8 a.m. meeting, and they've got their little wine tasting and spittoon, and she couldn't even taste the product. And so one of the really most common misconceptions is that buyers are going to like your product. You don't even know if the buyer is going to be able to taste it or try it or willing to, or they could be allergic. And so basing a pitch based on flavor profile alone is one of the riskiest things that you can do. Just because you believe it's great and just because your customers think it's great, if you can't, again, communicate why it's going to sell and why multiple customers from different demographics and areas and regions are going to love and purchase and continue to repurchase it, there's not a lot to go on there, and there's a lot of risk for the buyer to hold if they choose to work with you.
Yeah, yeah. And then in terms of like research, like you mentioned the data on like the dairy industry and how that's growing, like where can people do that research and like, how can they present it to make the best impression?
So there's a lot of ways that you can get the research. Some of the tools that we use, even some free research tools are like Google Analytics. Like you can type things in. ChatGPT honestly is a great way to just find information and say, "Hey, I'm trying to." If you prompt ChatGPT and say, "Hey, I'm trying to find information about the dairy category. Can you show me some trends that prove that it's been growing over the last 2 to 5 or whatever you want your metrics to be?" Show that it's growing. I need research articles. I need X, Y, and Z and populate it. There also are some really great large organizations like Spins Data and Nielsen IQ. That is literally what their job is, to help product companies and brands collect information not only in stores, but also just generally like what's going on in the world. And so there's a lot of ways that you can do that. But the main point to make sure that you get on this is show that the category is growing, whatever it is your category. And there is no, when you're in a buyer meeting and a pitch, there is no exact way that it's supposed to happen. A buyer meeting is just a professional conversation. And so when you're having that conversation, the words that you say and the way that you're communicating is the number one thing. The slide and the stuff on the screen is kind of like the sidekick. And so you get to make up whatever it is that you want to go on those slides, and you get to choose which information you want to present. So it doesn't have to be, well, my category didn't actually grow in the last 12 months. That's fine. Pick something where it highlights your brand and your category because you want to show how your brand and your product is winning. And there's, it's very subjective. It's, creative freedom, but do it in a way where you show that you win. People want to bet on winners.
Yeah.
Tia, I just wanted to add in terms of gaining access to data, and this might be a given, but there are a lot of industry trade publications out there that produce magazines and newsletters that provide a plethora of industry information that can be very helpful. I have found that only 20% of people really like to engage in this type of content. Make sure you're 20% of those people. Because if you're in this business, you need to be educated about this business. You need to become a student of industry. And I have found that trade communications and trade content, from progressive grocer to mass market retailers to Change Org Review, really excellent sources of information for you all. The other thing I just want to mention, and I know Tia mentioned NIQ, Nielsen IQ, is for small emerging brands. They do have a program called Visor, which will provide brands some limited category relevant data to help you better shape, form, tell your story to the retailer buyers. So again, if you're not subscribing to industry newsletters, please do so because it's very helpful.
Thanks for the extra part, Wayne. Tia, before we move on to John's section, one audience question I'm going to throw out there, and Tia, Wayne, whoever wants to go at this. Brand trust versus immediate value. Which factor is more critical to buyers? Company initiative, media messaging, or in-store promotional incentives? They said, as we are being pushed to invest heavily in the media. Any suggestions or thoughts on that?
I'm not sure I totally understand the question. Is the buyer encouraging
the brand? Should the brand kind of go after more of like the trust from a brand perspective, more of immediate value for the buyer to see right away? I think that's kind of what they're looking for.
I don't think it's a one or the other. And, Wayne, Wayne mentioned this earlier. Being a CPG or a product founder is also a very, very difficult job. You were constantly required to juggle and keep all of these different items in the air at all times. And so you do, yes, need to be building out the media and the social plan and gaining traction to show, people want this and there is interest, but there's also like you do need to be investing in research and development and the actual product and the packaging and warehouse operations. So it's not a put everything here. It's doing both at the same time. And it's okay to do both at the same, or I should say all of them, because there's a lot more things than just those two. It's better to do a little bit of everything in this specific scenario versus going all in on one thing, which typically is the advice business coaches give you, is focus on the one thing, do it really well. As a product founder, you have to build out your business and make that well-rounded at the same time.
Yeah, it's like the circus act where they're juggling, 50 dishes all at once, keeping them balancing.
Yeah. But you are focused on your brand. So that is the one thing. Like if you're focusing on the one thing, like do it well, you still are focused on the one thing that is building your brand and your company, but it requires you to work on additional, aspects of it at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thanks for giving some insight on that question. Okay, so let's transition to the last part of this. So let's say the brand, nails the pitch, they get the yes from the meeting. Obviously, all the work that's went up to this has already been a massive lift. But now I feel like if you don't execute on the last part, it makes all that lift worth nothing. So it's I hate to say like the work's just beginning, but it kind of really is. And I guess it always is. So I'm going to kind of put this to John. John, now that they have it, the purchase order, what's the, like often when the next challenge is, what should brands do right after they get that purchase order? Like what's one of the first things they should think about and do?
I think first, take a breath, congratulate yourself because it's just so challenging out there. But I mean, what we've certainly seen with Kickfurther, as you know, is most founders really underestimate the amount of working capital that's tied up, production, manufacturing, all these different costs. And what they tend to do is try to fund growth with the same dollars that they're funding day-to-day operations, and that's a challenge. So when they look at that PO, what is the timing? When are they going to start selling? How much money do they actually need to run the business, to make payroll? And do they have those funds available? That's one of the bigger challenges that we see. It goes from there to understanding all the metrics. What is their gross margin? What are these costs? You're not going to make it up in scale if you don't have a high enough gross margin. So it's really understanding those numbers as they go forward.
Yeah, yeah. And then obviously, like you mentioned, all the cash that they are capital they already need and will need to obviously going forward now, the retail. How can founders avoid overextending their cash flow at this stage?
I think it becomes really understanding that, right? Understanding your underlying cash needs and financing that inventory run, right? What's it going to cost you? How much time are those funds going to be tied up? When do you expect to start seeing sell through? Growth, what we tell a lot of the brands that we work with is growth should be controlled, not chaotic. So really understand those numbers, and you don't have to make it all on that first run. You need to prove yourself. You need to understand, as Wayne said before, understand your manufacturers, understand that you've used them before for smaller runs. How much are you doing yourself? How much are you co-manufacturing? Making sure that you actually understand those numbers. Too many businesses, we all know the stories of really successful brands that fail because they grow too fast and they run out of cash. That's not the road they should be going down.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like, obviously maybe like 5, 10 years ago, the number that everyone looked at was top line revenue, right? And then as we've learned, like that's not the number to look at, right? It's gross profit, really understand the margin specifically and what their actually, revenue looks like.
I mean, all of it, right? It's revenue growth, it's gross margin, it's turnover, it's what's the stock out rate? It's what are they selling through Amazon or Shopify? What's advertising costs? It's all of that. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
John, if
And then,
there's something that
go
I
ahead,
could
please.
just add on to what you were talking about on growing too fast, that actually one of the things that we talk about a lot is the golden retail rule, which is something that nobody talks about. It's really hard to find. It's not really written anywhere, but essentially what it is build your product, do it well, work out the kinks when it's really small, direct to consumer, and then you go for, a local retailer, maybe somebody that has, 2 to 10 doors, and you work out the problems there. Then you go to a regional one, maybe somebody that's got less than 100 or 200 stores, and then national. And then the very, very capstone accounts are, of course, big blue, big red, or, the big box, the wholesale retailers. But you do it in a way where you don't put yourself in the position John's talking about, where you completely, you've got this great opportunity and then you can't fulfill it and you lose the opportunity, you burn the relationship, the brand sinks, you potentially could go bankrupt. And those are the nightmares that happen. But when you follow the golden retail rule of building it small in a very sequential order, brands typically have a much higher success rate, because if you make a mistake with 100 products, it's totally different than making a mistake with potentially a million. Like that's something that, most people can't recover from.
Right.
I
So Tia,
can't,
just a question back to you and Wayne. Sorry if I jumped in there.
yeah.
What's the realistic advice though for a brand that's selling, a million, they're selling a certain amount and they get this huge PO? Say no, or should they be transparent? What do you guys think is the best way to deal with that?
I've got an idea.
Go ahead, Tia.
So one of the things that we really love to encourage founders to have in the conversation when they're presenting with a buyer, they have, an opportunity. One of the slides that we teach is all about the logistics and the operations, right? So not only is it, what's shelf life, what's storage, what's, how can you get product there, but it's Also, what is capacity? And so again, a buyer presentation should be a professional conversation. It should not be like you are standing on stage presenting a pitch script for, a grant. It is a conversation. It should be very interactive. And so when you get to the point of there actually is interest, you've gone through, you've shared information, you can actually say this phrase. If they say if the situation is I love this, I want to put you in 2,000 stores, I want all of it now, you can actually say, hey, I am so excited for the opportunity to partner with you. However, we have grown in a very structured and strategic way. I want to make sure that we are going to be a long-term partner for you. Is it possible to do a regional test with your top 20 or top 100 or top whatever, insert the blank, whatever stores, to prove concept, to prove sell through, to make sure it works right, and then grow with you in a sustainable way, because our goal is not to be, in quick and then, potentially not stay long term. We want to be a lifetime partner with you guys, and we want to perform to the best of our ability and make you look good. All of it is showing that you are, again, coming in as a partner and you want them to look good.
I can't agree with Tia more on that statement, and especially how to scale and grow in the retail marketplace. Right? I think she said it, right? Start online, start at the marketplace level, Walmart, Amazon, go small retail, regional retail, 1 to 100 stores, right? Prove, get wins, one win at a time matters, and then go into big box. And even if you go to big box, again, you don't have to sell all 3,000 stores. Go to a region, 300 stores, 200 stores, 50 stores. And that's the way you win. I couldn't agree with Tia more, especially in today's day and age of competition, retailer process, online, multi-channels, lots of competitors with limited dollars, even with Kickfurther. That's how you got to do it. I couldn't agree with Tia more.
But the other piece is, if you're going and presenting to a large retailer and there is a real opportunity and the goal is to get into lots of stores, have the conversation with PO financing groups like Kickfurther, or investor, whoever it is that you need to speak with on cash if you get an opportunity, and don't make it be this thing where, oopsie, I said yes, I wasn't prepared, and now I'm scrambling to figure it out, because that whole situation is avoidable. You can either have the conversation, be direct, as Wayne said, be transparent from the very beginning. It was the first thing we talked about on the call. Or you can prepare for it and present like you're ready to take on a national rollout. But don't do that if you haven't done the homework and the work and found the financing option so that you actually can support it. Because either way, you're not setting yourself up for success.
Right.
Tia,
Yeah,
can I just, yeah, go ahead, John.
I was just going to, finalize that with Kickfurther, tying funding to growth and separating your day-to-day operations and doing a few trial runs. We love repeat deals, and I'm sure most funders do, where you can say, okay, now we understand your manufacturer. We've dealt with them before. We've sent funds directly to them. We understand your entire process. We understand when payments will actually start coming in versus when you perceive that they may start coming in. And that makes it very easy to start supporting that growth.
John, would you say that it's helpful if a brand were to come to you when they were getting their first 1 or 2 retailers, like they're starting small and then they're growing, so that you already have an established relationship with them once they get the national rollout opportunity? It's not just like, who are these guys that are asking for $1 million? It's an established relationship.
Right, exactly. And we tie the funding to when they actually sell the goods. So one of the problems we've seen with some of our brands is, they end up getting financing from someone where they have to start making payments the next day. Well, what's that happening? It's coming out of cash flow. Then they're going to have pressure with other areas. Better to tie it to when they're actually selling those goods, which might be 2 months or 3 months later.
I love the concept of preparedness.
Yeah, John,
I will tell you that is a breakthrough message here for founders: preparedness.
that fifth
Think
key.
about what could happen. That's a great theme. I mean, think about what could happen next. So
Yeah.
preparedness. I love that.
Yeah, John. I mean, from the like Tia mentioned, it was actually someone was going to ask, like, going into the retail meeting, like, is it powerful to talk with Kickfurther, other funding options, whoever out there, to get like the approval first ahead of time? So not only can you know the buyer psychology, know what they want, know how to talk about your brand, but then from a financial standpoint, show them like, hey, I'm ready to go right away because I have the do you feel like that gives them the extra confidence to the buyer?
Yeah, and I think that sits in very well with what Tia said before of, what is their actual capacity? Hey, here's how much we've sold to these smaller, let's say local retailers. Here's our capacity to support you right now. Based on that sell through, yes, we can substantially increase it, and we have the funding to be able to support it. Yeah, and again, it goes to transparency. I think what Wayne was talking about before, making sure that there's very clear communication to these larger retailers. Here's where we are. Here's what we can support. Here's how we're going to fund that support.
Yeah. Yeah, I know we're coming up on time and I want to save a couple minutes for Q&A. So John, I want to ask one more question. So funded that first purchase order. Now we're on the other side, which is great. It's like, okay, now we're rolling out more regionally, nationally. Like how can brands plan ahead financially so they can scale efficiently with that growth? Like kind of laying in like what Tia was mentioning earlier. Like what should they be looking at? What metrics can they also communicate to the buyers to show that success and to show like anything else they can think about?
Yeah, it's really planning out that cash flow, having a 90-day plan. When are these sales coming through? We've actually partnered with a fintech bank that is focused on consumer packaged goods companies that instantly creates a 13-week cash flow. People can, DM me if you want to learn more about that. But that's the type of thing. Do you really understand your finances? What is that production run going to do? How much is it going to impact you? Are you ready for that second one? Don't take on more than you can handle. And again, have controlled growth, not chaotic growth, because you get to the chaotic. Are you reading your reviews? Are people happy? Did you deliver on time? All those things start to create this circular effect, which is not good.
Yeah, yeah. Controlled growth, preparedness, all similar. I love it. Oh, amazing insights. Thank you, Tia, Wayne, and John. Now let's open up to audience questions for a couple minutes before we have to end this webinar. I know some people have already submitted, so I'll start working through those. If you have any other ones, please submit them in the chat. We'll do our best to get through them in the next couple minutes. This one is from Seth. I think it's for Wayne, but obviously anyone who wants to chime in here, go for it. How is the rise of popularity of digital marketplaces affecting the retail market, including the retail digital marketplaces themselves?
Well, it's interesting. It's becoming a whole separate channel. I mean, think about how often we're buying on Amazon today, which is a digital marketplace. Many of the retailers want you to go to their marketplace as a place to start and improve sales, conversion, not recommendation, reviews, because all of that is golden information. So if you're a new brand looking to start out, and I think this goes back to what Tia said, start small and win at every level, I would definitely get your products online at these marketplaces. Generally doesn't cost you anything, but then what it's going to cost you is media dollars, search dollars to drive those consumers to those marketplaces.
Yeah.
So good opportunities there with everything.com marketplace.
I've got a quick note just on that. How has the digital age kind of changed the way that the buyers are engaging with potential new suppliers? Prior to COVID, Amazon was doing well, of course, but it was really in the COVID space where Amazon took off. And a lot of traditional brick and mortar retailers are getting their heinies kicked by all of the sales that Amazon is making. And that's just kind of really the reality of what it is. And so one of the things that we've seen from a lot of retailers is almost setting it as a prerequisite, semi-requirement for new emerging brands to then get on their online platform, so their .coms, so that they can try to compete again with Amazon, because they are the giant that's leading right now. And so they also want to stay competitive. And one of the things that they are doing is, again, making brands join those specific digital marketplaces before even entertaining buyer meetings with the brand. That's something, and that's something that we never saw before, 5 years ago. And so, the digital piece is really changing, not only just, of course, online and how available and, the usage for the actual consumer, but it's also changing the way that corporate interactions are happening with potential vendors.
Yeah, and I will tell you that if you have an objective one day to sell in Walmart, the first step you got to do is get on Walmart Marketplace. I would not go to a Walmart merchant until you are in Walmart Marketplace and have success there.
And then show that success to the Walmart buyers.
Yes.
Got it. Yeah. I know we're going to do one more question from the Q&A, and then we'll wrap things up. So this one is from Ben. Any advice on getting past, so this is in relation to getting the buyer meeting. Any advice on getting past the gatekeepers? Is using a platform like LinkedIn to go right to the source, or are there other better methods to, get past those gatekeepers and speak directly to the buyers? Obviously, trade shows, ECRM, RangeMe, but any other suggestions on getting past those initial gatekeepers?
Well, I haven't seen that deck or that presentation, but I would say that based off of 30 opportunities that have been said no, I think there's something probably in the communication. And I would suggest talking to Tia about maybe sharpening that presentation.
Thanks, Wayne. Well, of course, what we do is we help founders have the conversation and win with buyers. We've got the winning pitch deck template, and we teach you how to do that, of course. But I think the question on gatekeepers is really a good one, because getting in front of the buyer and actually getting the opportunity to have the meeting is really a difficult thing. And there is no one answer. There is no one database that gives you all of the buyer contacts. And if you are paying for that, I don't know how how much you paid for it. It's probably not accurate. This is the part of the business where you have to be as scrappy as possible. Maybe it's literally calling one of the stores and asking for an opportunity, or the buyer contact or corporate contact information, or maybe you're engaging on LinkedIn and on socials, because the buyers, again, guys, if you think about the psychology, buyers are corporate people have LinkedIn, the buyers are on LinkedIn. And so if you're connecting with industry leaders that are posting interesting thoughts, and you're connecting with amazing groups, like their Startup CPG has one, Shelfmate, DFW CPG, Food Bevy, Vegpreneur. Like, there are amazing groups and organizations that you can follow and connect with. But then also you'll notice that some decision makers comment on those posts, and you can connect with them directly. If you start building rapport, and even better, if you start posting content, sharing about your wins, right? Always sharing positive things, you will get the attention of buyers. But it is not hey, all you do is this one thing and then you get the answer. It's, let's see if we can figure out the back ways, upside down, side door, and figure out to maybe get the opportunity. And then once you get the opportunity, you got to kill it. You can't blow those opportunities, because it's rare that you get one. And you really want to make sure you win.
Yeah. And once you've gone to Tia to straighten out the communication of the deck, remember, you can get 30, 40, 50, 60 one-on-one scheduled pet meetings at ECRM.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, thank you guys so much for and Wayne, obviously those events have been great. And then, so Tia, Wayne, John, thank you again for sharing your insights today and taking the time. I really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who joined us. Reminder, we've dropped some links in the chat. You connect with any of our speakers or their companies from the links we've sent. And we'll also keep an eye on your email box. Probably tomorrow, we're going to aim out to send out the replay with other resources that Tia mentioned, upcoming events like Tia's webinar she has on December 16th with Forecaster and Mark Nathan. And then if you're in New York City, or will be in New York City on December 10th, ECRM has their Founders Day. So we'll send over the discount code for that too, so you can get 20% off. Well, best of luck with everyone getting those buyer meetings and winning those purchase orders. Remember, preparedness, that 5th P is the key. So everyone, thank you again, and take care.